early. Yeah, it is. Or, just, let yourself get into the game. Don't try and force yourself into the game. So Mum, she's still that person for me. And, as a human being, she's just the one I look to. She, if I could be anything like her, when I grow up, I hope that I can be. I think she's an amazing human being. So as a person and as a basketball player, all in her day.
Carrie, is there anyone that...
She didn't mention me as one of her mentors.
Well,
but that's why it's still coming.
Let me go back. My coaches too.
She's under pressure now.
No, my coaches obviously over the years have definitely had such a huge influence on me, and I think every coach brings something different. But Graffy's also been my coach, or someone that's coached me since I was 18 or younger, 16 with the national team, and then seen me grow up and everything. So I think Graffy in particular, out of all of them, has been one person who has definitely influenced a lot of the ways that I play, the way that I think, the way that I handle situations. So it's she definitely has been a huge part of my career.
I'm asking for my own kudos. That was a joke.
Well, no, but I mean it's true. But yeah.
For me, look, I think similar, Lauren. I think for most people, your parents have such a big influence on you. And I was, both my parents were school teachers and had, my dad in particular had a passion for sports. He was a mad Richmond supporter. He loved his golf. So from a sporting perspective, we were in a sporty family, and they were teachers, so we had a lot of time with them as kids. That our school holidays, we had both parents at home for, back in my day, it was 12-week holidays at Christmas. So we were on the tennis court, on the squash court, on the footy field, on the golf course, on the mini golf course. So for me, I think that was a big influencer, and an influencer certainly in coaching, in that I saw two quite different people lead people, coax people, encourage people through their work. And if anyone here is a child of school parent, teacher parents, that when you have a sick day, you actually end up going to school because you go to mum or dad's school. So for me, I think that was a big influence, particularly in coaching. I saw, subtly as a kid how to operate with people in many ways, and I think, like Lauren, then the elite people that you work with through your career. So for me, probably in coaching, it was Tom Ma, who's one of the world's greatest female coaches. Coached, I think he'll be on his six Olympic Games with 4 different nations. I played for him as a young bench player and coached with him, and I think he had a big influence on me in many ways as a young coach. And I think too, for me, probably the players that I've had a chance to work with. So straight back at you, Lauren. When you get to work with some of the best players in the world in what they do, Lauren being one of those, you learn a whole lot from them. It's, what is it that they do, and how can you teach that to somebody else, or what is it about their character that makes them special and elite, and how can you offer that to some other young talent. So I think, it's been a whole variety of things for me.
Well, talking about your parents, when I was playing golf younger, I was playing a tournament at the Australian Golf Club, and there's a hole there at Surf Pole. It's got a lot of water, and my mum gave me this brilliant piece of advice after I'd hit 3 balls into the water. She said to me, "Why didn't you go around?" So she's been a big influence with me too. So if you could go back now to when you were teenagers and you were just starting basketball, the stuff that you know now as a player and as a coach, what one piece of advice would you give yourself to say, starting out in your career, what would you like to have known then that you know now?
Oh God, there's so much for me. Personally, the journey for me has been one which, I'd like to think I have no regrets, but I mean, there was definitely times where I feel like I could have done things differently, but telling myself something as a teenager, I probably wouldn't, because I don't think I would change anything about what I went through when I was a teenager. I definitely, we were talking at an Act 2 AGL function last week, and I sort of said that, as an athlete, as a good high, going to be a good athlete, people sort of spoon-fed me when I was younger. So I didn't go, I always got away with blue murder because I was good at playing basketball. So people just sort of let me do what I wanted to do, and that's why I wouldn't change anything. But as you get older, and obviously you can't get away, I think the lessons that you learn as you get older, I think they're worth it. I think going through it
She still gets away with blue murder.
No, I do not.
For me, I mean, that question comes out a lot now when you do these Q&As, and I mean, I think like Lauren, if you reflect on it, what would you say to yourself as a younger person? I think the people around you said it anyway. It's just that your ears weren't open to hearing those things back then. So I think like Lauren too, I think all the adversities and the mistakes you make, they're all part of the learning process, and you need to go through them. So I guess I'm philosophically similar to Lauren on that. So I wouldn't give myself, you know, maybe you don't want to reflect on your own experience and say, well, I shouldn't have done that, or shouldn't have done that. I did it, and I need to, you know, live with and learn from the consequences of anything. So, I mean, I think the big thing, and I think I did this, is, you know, just have fun in whatever it is that you do. People will always say to me, you know, you're burning the candle at both ends. It's like, well, you know, why wouldn't I? I'm 15 or 20 or 25, that you got to fit it all in. So, you know, as I say that, I guess I'm thinking out loud and say, you know, would I change that? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have been able to do what I did if I didn't burn the candle at both ends and, you know, try and squeeze as much into life as I could. So, yeah.
If there was another sport that you made when you were younger that you know went in a different direction, I'm not sure what sports you played when you were children. Is there one sport that stands out that you would have liked to have had a crack at? And secondly, is there any sort of international sports person that you sort of look up to outside of basketball as having qualities that you'd like to have or that you admire?
Well, when you know, back before I left, when I was 10, I probably played. I played every sport that I could. You know, I was one of those kids, and then it got to the point where, you know, mum and dad were like, okay, you have to pick one. I was playing each weekend either tennis or basketball, so I was really into tennis, loved tennis, and then I chose basketball. I was always going to choose basketball, it was never, but tennis was fun. So I guess, you know, looking at athletes that I admire, I don't necessarily have anyone that I go, oh wow, they're amazing. I mean, they all are. Like, if you're a top athlete, you look at them and you're in awe of them, absolutely. But I think Roger Federer, like probably most people, he's, you know, iconic because of the way that he holds himself, and you know, he's been a champion, he still is a champion, and you know, and all eyes are on him. Everyone in the world knows who he is. So I think he's someone that I definitely look at and think, yeah, you're a class act. Like, you know, that's admirable.
Yeah, and for me, I was the sporty little kid that did everything, and I thought I'd play for Richmond until I was about 10, and then went, oh, I can't play for Richmond. So Aussie rules was my sport of choice, and for me in the 70s in Melbourne, basketball, even though it was big, there wasn't, you know, girls basketball wasn't big, so I was forced to play skirt ball. Sorry to any netball fans or dads with girls playing netball. Forced to play skirt ball first, which as a tomboy isn't a whole lot of fun. We have to wear a dress to play sports. That's a bit silly, I thought, at 7 and 8 and 9. So for me it was AFL, and I spent, you know, every week from when I was, I think, 6 to 10 going to watch Richmond play at the MCG, and then basketball took over for me. So it was, yeah, I think I would have been, if I was a young guy, I probably would have been Sheedy or Malthouse or one of those guys. When I look at the guys that I used to admire playing, they became AFL coaches, so I think that would have been probably the route I took. And I think, like Lauren, you know, when you get to work in elite sport, you know, you have admiration for people with talent in our field, and but I think it's the individuals that stand out that are classy people, that are wonderful role models. And I think, like Loz, you know, the person that comes to mind is someone like Federer. You know, even Steffi Graf, I think that the people that just are classy in the way they go about their business in sport and their work in the community and how they represent themselves alongside their athletic talents, I think, is the separator.
Yeah. And now, Lauren, a question about obviously the Olympics next year, and you've read your bio, like the 2 WNBA titles, 3 MVPs, World Championship, 4 Olympic gold medals. What do you think it will take to add a gold medal to that area?
Look, I think, you know, I've said this a million times in probably every interview I've done, but the stars have to align for something like that to happen, and it's not out of the question. I mean, it's happened for me on a lot of, several times with Graffy, a couple of times in America, the World Championship year. Like, everything has to go right, and it's possible. look, the team, regardless of whether they have me or, you know, any of the other older players, I think has a shot at winning because they've got Liz Cambridge at the moment. Well, hopefully they have Liz if she's not at some, you know, music festival.
We'll fill you in on that story. Lauren mentored her on.
Funny. No, so like Liz is, she's the sort of player that, she, you know, if she wanted to, she could be the best there ever was. And that's, you know, the ball's in her court. And I think that if, you know, she's back in the squad and then, you know, they build a team around her that's able to help win the gold medal, it's very, very possible. And I'd love to be on that team, but I said the other day in the media that I'm not managing my body for the Rio Olympics. I'm actually managing it to get back on court for the Capitals. Because like I've had my time. I've had a great time, but I just want to play. Like, you know, I just want to win a championship here, and then whatever happens after that will be a bonus. So.
Yeah. And so, Carrie, you've been involved with Opals too as a assistant coach and as the head coach. How do you keep the girls, like Lauren was just talking there about thinking about it Opals and day by day rather than getting too distracted by what's in the background there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a balance for athletes and coaches and teams. Is, you know, it's that ability to focus on the moment but having a long-term goal and balancing when you state your vision and every day you're working towards that, whether it's a championship or a bronze or a gold medal, whatever your goals are as a group and where you think you can hit the mark. But I think it's then bringing it back to, you know, and I think golf's the classic example for that. It's when your club head hits the ball, are you in the moment? Are you not distracted by the thought of this better be a good one? God, I'm playing crap today. You know, that in any sports, that ability to just be in the zone and in the moment and this play and this game and this quarter is the difference maker. And the thought that this game is going to impact our chances to win the championship. How we want to play today is how we want to play in a championship game or how we want to play in a gold medal game, regardless of opponent, regardless of win or loss record, regardless of whatever. That can we perform to our peak in each moment that we're on the floor. And